Imagine this: you wake at 3:17 a.m., not to the sound of an alarm or a nightmare, but to the cold glow of your screen. Your thumb scrolls mechanically, absorbing a stream of faces, voices, and lives that aren't yours. An unsettling thought pierces the haze: when did you last make a choice uninfluenced by the invisible jury of likes and shares? Your online persona, polished and perpetually on, now dictates your offline reality. The clothes you buy, the meals you photograph, even your quietest moments of grief, all calibrated for an audience you've never met. The profile you built to express yourself has quietly become the architect of your existence. Here's the paradox: the tools designed to amplify your voice have rendered you fluent in a language not your own. You post about mindfulness while compulsively refreshing metrics. You curate authenticity. You perform vulnerability. With each scroll, a piece of your attention slips into the collective feed, traded by platforms that monetize the erosion of your psyche. Do you control the algorithm, or has it rewritten your neural pathways? When strangers know your preferences better than your childhood friends, who's narrating the story of you? The screen dims. In the darkness, a more terrifying question lingers: if you deleted all your accounts tomorrow, what would remain of the person you've become? A name? A face? Or a hollowed-out shell, its desires and fears shaped by the ceaseless churn of content? Your digital doppelganger, crafted from likes, shares, and follows, now breathes with a life of its own, a phantom limb tethered to your consciousness. You chase the dopamine of notifications, each buzz a validation of your existence. Yet, in moments of silence, a hollow echo resonates. Are you the curator of your identity, or merely its caretaker? The platforms promised connection but delivered a hall of mirrors where reflections fracture into endless iterations of the self. Who is the original, and who is the reflection? The line blurs until you can no longer distinguish the dancer from the dance. As dawn approaches, you wonder: is this the evolution of identity or its slow erasure? The answer lies buried beneath layers of data, waiting to be unearthed in the next chapter of this digital odyssey. You are not weak. You are human, a species wired for tribe and meaning, now trapped in a labyrinth designed by your own cravings. The hijacking of identity began long before the first algorithm. Carl Jung warned of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we exile to conform to societal masks. Social media didn't invent your persona, it weaponized it. Every post, every filtered selfie, is a ritual sacrifice to the god of collective approval. But unlike ancient rites, this altar never closes. Jean-Paul Sartre called it bad faith, the act of surrendering authenticity to where identities others deem valuable. You don't lie, you curate. You don't hide, you optimize. And in doing so, you become a stranger to yourself. The platforms thrive on a philosophical loophole as old as consciousness itself: the human need to be witnessed. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "Man would sooner have the void for his purpose than be void of purpose." We'd rather adopt a fragmented, crowdsourced self than face the terror of existential freedom. The likes are not mere dopamine hits, they're existential band-aids, numbing the ache of what Viktor Frankl termed the existential vacuum. Yet this vacuum grows louder with every scroll. The more you perform, the less you exist. But why does it feel impossible to stop? Aldous Huxley's Brave New World foresaw a dystopia not of force, but of voluntary submission to distraction. Social media is the soma of our age, a pleasure drug that pacifies through endless customization. Your feed is a hall of mirrors reflecting back not who you are, but who you could become if you just bought the product, adopted the opinion, embraced the trend. Arthur Schopenhauer's Will to Life, the primal force driving human desire, has mutated into a will to validation, an insatiable hunger fed by metrics that reduce your complexity to a number. The deepest betrayal lies in the illusion of autonomy. You believe you're choosing, but the menu was crafted by unseen architects. Your desires are shaped by engagement metrics, your fears amplified by viral outrage. Even your rebellions, the posts meant to signal free thought, are confined to pre-approved narratives. This is digital Stockholm syndrome. You cling to the very systems that hollow you out, mistaking their chains for lifelines. The roots of this crisis are not technological, but existential. You've been conditioned to confuse visibility with meaning, connection with clicks. And as the next layer of the trap tightens, the consequences of this confusion will reveal just how much of your soul has been offered as collateral. You don't notice the theft until the crime is complete. Each morning, you reach for your phone before your eyes fully adjust to the light, a reflex as primal as breathing. But here's what escapes you: every swipe through curated perfection rewires your brain's reward system. Dopamine, once reserved for hard-won triumphs, now trickles like a leaky faucet for trivialities, a meme shared, a vague nod from a distant acquaintance. Neuroscientists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that keeps gamblers shackled to slot machines. Your attention span fractures, your mind becomes a room with 1,000 flickering screens, each demanding a sliver of your consciousness. You read paragraphs in headlines, friendships in emojis, and truths in trending hashtags. The cost? The slow erosion of your capacity to dwell in depth. Culturally, the fallout is darker. Social media thrives on emotional extremism, outrage, envy, euphoria, each amplified to hijack your nervous system. Algorithms, trained to exploit confirmation bias, herd you into ideological silos where dissent is muted and nuance starves. You mistake the echo chamber for consensus, the viral narrative for reality. Meanwhile, the spiral of silence tightens. You withhold authentic opinions, fearing digital exile, until your inner voice atrophies. Your offline self becomes a ghost of unspoken thoughts, your identity a patchwork of pre-approved positions. Philosophically, the consequences cut deeper. Viktor Frankl argued that meaning arises from suffering consciously endured. But in the digital age, suffering is monetized as content. Grief becomes a post, loneliness a live stream. You document your life instead of living it, outsourcing memory to the cloud. The result? A hollowing of experience. Moments once felt in the marrow, a sunset, a quiet laugh, are flattened into pixels, their emotional weight diluted by the compulsion to share. Jean-Paul Sartre warned that, hell is other people, but what happens when those others are infinite, omnipresent, and algorithmically weaponized? Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to support our growing community, and also check out the first link in the description to help you unlock your full potential for free. The most insidious consequence? The erasure of your unobserved self. Childhood hobbies abandoned if they don't garner praise, relationships strained by performative expectations, creativity stifled unless it's content-ready. You've become a citizen of a panopticon, policing your own thoughts under the imagined gaze of the crowd. This is the silent coup, your humanity reduced to data points, your autonomy to predictive models. The clock ticks, but the path to rebellion begins with a single, subversive act of awareness. Rebellion begins not with deletion, but with defiance, a refusal to let your attention be colonized. Picture this: you stare at a notification pulsing like a tiny dictator. Instead of obeying, you close your eyes. For 10 seconds, you reclaim what the algorithm cannot touch: the rhythm of your breath, the weight of your body against the chair. This is the first act of war, presence over pixels. The Stoics called it apatheia, mastery over impulses. Nietzsche termed it will to power, choosing what nourishes your soul over what numbs it. You are not deleting your accounts, you are rewiring your will. History whispers blueprints for revolt. Henry David Thoreau abandoned society's script to seek truth in solitude, writing, "I went to the woods to live deliberately." The Dadaists, railing against a world drunk on reason, embraced absurdity to shatter illusions. Their tools: disruption, irony, and the courage to be unmarketable. You need not vanish into the wilderness, but you must scorch the algorithm's blueprint. Start here, cultivate useless moments, sketch in a notebook no one will see, dance to music no one will hear, think thoughts no one will applaud. These acts are grenades against the economy of validation. The counterintuitive truth. To break free, you must feed the void, not with content, but with silence. Let boredom carve channels for creativity. Let solitude reintroduce you to yourself. Viktor Frankl's defiance in Auschwitz was to find meaning in suffering, yours is to find meaning in stillness. When the itch to scroll arises, ask, am I seeking connection or fleeing from myself? Social media's greatest fear is your ability to endure, and even cherish, unobserved existence. Embrace radical self-definition. Post nothing. Share nothing. For a day, a week, a lifetime, let your life be a poem written in invisible ink. When you return online, do so as a saboteur, follow accounts that confuse the algorithm. Engage only with what stirs your soul, not your serotonin. The goal isn't to quit the system, but to poison its gears with authenticity. This is the rebellion of the unmeasured life. A declaration that you are more than a data point, more than a profile in the hive mind's gallery. The cage was never locked, you were just mesmerized by its mirrors. The truth is this, you were never the user. You were the used. For years, you believed the screen was a mirror, a tool to reflect your essence outward. But mirrors only show surfaces. The digital realm is not a reflection, it's a distortion field, bending your psyche to fit a reality where everything, and nothing, is real. Your identity was never stolen. It was outsourced, piece by piece, in exchange for the illusion of belonging. But here's the revelation that unravels the maze: the moment you stop performing, you begin to exist. The philosopher Martin Buber wrote of the difference between I-it and I-thou relationships, reducing others to objects versus encountering them as sovereign beings. Social media collapses this into I-algorithm, where even you become an it to yourself. Your worth quantified, your pain monetized, your joy filtered. But the ultimate truth is not that you've lost yourself. It's that you've mistaken the map for the territory. The profiles, posts, and personas are crude sketches of a self that defies capture. You are the wilderness, not the trail. The final paradox. The more you abandon the performance, the more power you reclaim. Every second spent unobserved, unmeasured, unoptimized is a strike against the machine. Your true self isn't a static noun to be curated, it's a verb, a process, a becoming. Jean-Paul Sartre declared, existence precedes essence. You are not a profile waiting to be filled. You are a question that refuses to be answered, a flame that thrives in the winds of uncertainty. What remains when the noise fades? The same raw material that has haunted humanity since the first campfire stories, the unfiltered present. A laugh that needs no audience. A tear that needs no caption. A thought that needs no validation. The algorithm fears this truth because it cannot commodify what it cannot measure. Your unrecorded life is the revolution. So let the platform starve. Let the metrics crumble. The most subversive act is to live, truly live, in the cracks of their system. You are not a user. You are ungovernable. And in that irreducible core, the part that scrolls but cannot be scrolled, that posts but cannot be posted, you are finally, terrifyingly, magnificently free. The screen flickers. You close it. Somewhere, in the silence, a new question stirs. Who will you become when no one is watching? Watch the next video to learn how capitalism hijacked your desire to be good.